The following is a video tutorial for the Intro to Model Making activity with Fusion 360, and this particular video is going to highlight part number 2. To create this shape, we're going to use extrusion, fillets, and the hole feature. We're going to do this in several stages. I'm going to start off by building the base here first, add the fillets, then we'll work on the back wall. From there, extend the cylinder head forward, fillet our edges again on this curve, and then pop the 2 holes in. All the numbers I need are referenced here on this multi-view, starting with the dimensions for the base. So the base needs to be 4 inches by 3 inches, and it will have a 0.5 radius on the front 2 corners for that. So I'm going to move over to Fusion 360, start a sketch. For this part, I'm going to pick the bottom plane, and I'm going to use my center rectangle tool, drag out from the center, and I want my width to be 4, height to be 3. So that gave me a 4 by 3 rectangle on the sketch. I'm going to finish sketch, extrude that. The thickness needs to be 1 inch thick. You can see that clearly in the side view there. So I will drag this part up and then set that to exactly 1 and hit enter. I'm going to add a fillet on the front that can be found here in the modify panel. I want to select this edge here and the one on the other side. Set that number to 0.5. You can see how it rounded the edge there. I'm just going to hit enter to solidify that. Now I'm on to building the back wall of this part. The easiest way to do that is actually going to be to rotate your part and start building on this back surface here. So I'm going to click on create a sketch and select that back surface. Now that I'm here, I'm going to go back to my drawing and reference some more numbers. I can see that I'm going to have a 2-inch diameter circle top to this back wall. So a 2-inch diameter circle. I'll actually start with that number. I want to center that circle. The center point for it should be 4.5 inches off the base. And that's also going to establish the width here, because you can see these lines are coming right off that 2-inch diameter, and they're nice and tangent, but also parallel with each other and perpendicular to the base. So I'm going to set up a 2-inch diameter circle, 4.5 inches from the top to the bottom, and then draw in my sidelines here. So watch as I do that. Start with a center circle. And you'll notice if you just move your mouse around the screen, there's nothing really helping you snap into position. But if you hover over pre-existing geometry, like doing this along this top line here, I just found my midpoint. And midpoint is denoted with a triangle. Now that I have that highlighted, as I start to drag up from that midpoint, even if I lose the line and come back to it, you can kind of see it's giving me something to snap into. So that's a nice little feature there. If you're trying to line something up like on center like we are with this, try that. So I'm going to start my circle right on center from that midpoint, from the base down below, drag out from there and hit 2 on the keyboard and hit enter. I now want to dimension that center circle to the origin or to the bottom of the part here and make that exactly 4.5 inches. And then I need to add in some additional lines. There are also multiple ways to do this. One option I'm going to have you walk through today is kind of like a dirty CAD method. We're basically going to center up on that midpoint again. So find the triangle on the top line there. Click to place a line and then move directly out to the left, type 1 and hit enter. We're basically creating a placeholder for the width of this. And I'm going to do the same thing in the other direction. Drag out to the right and hit enter. Move the dimensions around if you don't like where they've landed. And now with my line tool, from the endpoint there, drag straight up, and it should just meet the edge of the circle perfectly. I'll hit escape and then grab my line tool again, do the same thing on the other side, drag up from there, hit escape to stop drawing. And now using the trim tool, which can be found in the modify panel here during sketch mode, I'm going to trim out the top portion of the lines that I don't need and the bottom portion of the circle that I don't need. Now left with one profile. I'm going to click finish sketch. Click home on the view cube here to reorient myself. And now I'm going to bring that forward. How much do I want to extrude it? Well, I can see here that it's going to be 1 inch thick on the back wall. So let's go ahead and extrude that profile forward 1 inches. Note it's going to be -1 because I drew on the backside of a plane, but that's okay. As long as we're joining and not cutting, it can be a negative value, -1, and hit enter. That created my back wall. I mentioned before that we were going to take the cylinder and extend it out. You can really do these in any order. In fact, if I want to do the fillet right now, I can address that. These curved edges that you see coming off the back wall as they meet the base, those are going to have a radius of 1 inch, and that's shown here in my front view. So if I go back to the part, I can click on fillet, and fillet can be used 2 ways. Earlier, we used it to remove material. Now we're going to use it to add material. I'm going to set that to 1 inch, and you can see how that perfectly comes out. I'm going to add another selection to there, grab the other side, make that 1 inch as well. And so now I have a perfect little scoop out there, added material using the fillet tool. We have the scoops on each side. Now I want to bring that cylinder head forward. And because we already have that 2-inch diameter at the top here, this is going to be really easy. I'm going to go to create a sketch on the front surface, grab my circle tool. And again, if you kind of hover over existing geometry, you'll be able to find the center point that you're looking for here. So that's my center point. I'm going to click and drag out, and it should be exactly 2 inches again. I'll just type 2 and hit enter to be super sure about that. And that's it. Just needed a 2-inch diameter circle right on center from the existing geometry. And then we're going to extend that out again. And if I look here, it should be another inch forward, shown here in the top view. So extrude just the circle, another inch forward to there. And now we have to add holes. There are 2 holes. One's going to be on the base, one's going to be on the center of that cylinder. The placement for each of these is going to be a little different. So the one that's on the cylinder is just going to be directly on center. It'll have a 1-inch diameter, and it's going to be a through hole, which means it's going to go all the way through the part. The hole here on the base is also a 1-inch through hole, but we're going to have to reference its location slightly differently. With the one that's in the cylinder head, we can just line it up center on center. With this one, we're going to have to reference 2 edges. So we're going to put it 2 inches from the side, and then you can see here it's being shown as 2 inches from the back, but we could also do 1 inch from the front. Just take the difference between 2 and 3. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go to my hole feature here. I'll do the one up on the cylinder head first. The first thing you got to do is select the surface or the face where you want this to go. So I'm going to click right here inside the cylinder head. The next bit is going to be to establish the extents, which is going to be all. That's our through. The diameter down here should be exactly 1 inch, not 0.9. And it has an angle down here. We could just change drill point to flat and eliminate the angle altogether. So I have my extent set to all, diameter set to 1 inch. It's going to cut and remove that material away, but I have to establish my reference here. And this is going to be called a concentric reference because we're lining up 2 center points, 2 cylindrical items, 2 cylindrical shapes. So by clicking reference here, you should be able to highlight the front end of that cylinder in black. And when you click on that, we should see the hole line up perfectly on center. I'm going to click OK to place that. And if I just rotate a little bit, you can see it went all the way through the part. The last hole is going to be on the base. So I'm going to do the same thing. Just click the face to place it. And then for the references on this, I will need to select the side wall. You can see that light up in black as you hover over it. I'm going to make that 2 inches. Move to my second reference here. Select the front line. Make that 1. Distance for extents could be all. 1 inch diameter. Double check that. Make sure it's a 1 inch diameter. And that should be it. If we go ahead and check our properties now, right click on that top line item in the browser, go to properties, minimize general and manage, looking at the physical tab, we should have a volume of 21.678 and an area of 75.206. If we check our document for the activity, those are the exact numbers, 21.678 and 75.206. So once again, once you've verified that your volume and area are matching and you've made the part correctly, go ahead and give this a save. Model making activity, part number 2. That's all for this one, folks. I'll catch you on the next time.